First of all, these are briefing notes that I never saw. These are briefings for a briefer who then gave a briefing.
That's a beautiful video that everyone should keep handy, because Trudeau, a day after he said that, and a reporter asked him, "Are you going to read your briefing notes now?" And he said, "What?" Like he was in shock. He said it. Welcome back to the A News Network. Don't forget to hit the notification button. That helps out the channel a lot. Let's have a listen to the control that Trudeau's trying to take from us.
He wants to have total control over what you can see and say online, to protect us all from these dangerous forces that might influence our thinking if we're not protected by the angels in the government. And yet, when there is actually a risk of manipulation by hostile and malicious actors, like, say, a communist regime in Beijing, he can't even take the responsibility of reading his briefing notes.
First of all, these are briefing notes that I never saw. These are briefings for a briefer who then gave a briefing.
Big government, large government is everything Trudeau wants, and it is that narcissism, and that's why people say, another example of why the dictatorship, it's total control over the people. He wants to take all the money and then give it back to you, and you have to be in praise of this glorious man for his money that he gave back to you. Like, that's the part he doesn't click in because he's a narcissist. Let's have a look now at Mario talking about where Canada is going on this new tax that came
We
in.
are witnessing firsthand the downfall of Canada. We are on a verge of an economic collapse, and it all has to do with our leadership. Tweedledee and Tweedledum over here have proposed to spend $8 trillion. And they don't even address the housing issues that we have. This is all for show, and I'm going to break down why. But not only that, he's taxing the wealthiest Canadians, and here's why it matters. Those earning more than $300,000 a year, the high-income earners in Canada, pay 2/3 of all taxes in Canada. Let me repeat that. 17.9% of Canadians pay for 2/3 of all taxes collected in Canada. These are entrepreneurs, these are leaders, these are also people that start, own, or are in charge of the biggest corporations in Canada. Our productivity has gone completely downhill because of a lack of investment happening. It's going to take years for it to be fixed. And the lagging productivity issue that we have is a threat to our Canadian living standards. Our dollar's getting weaker, we're getting poorer, prices are going up, and that's not an issue that you can spend $500 billion fixing. Majority of these people that are being taxed and overtaxed more are the same ones that are probably going to be leaving. They are mobile. The people that earn $300,000 per year or more, those are the ones that are going to be taxed more. At best, those are the people that can barely afford the average selling price of a home in Oakville. Just for context. So the solution they have is to spend more. More taxes is the solution. And you may not think it, but it's going to
And that renter control right, it sounds so amazing, but he can't even protect freedom of expression rights. But having to say that in 20 years, you're going to get this score because you paid rent. And then after the 20 years, say you paid a couple $100,000. And at that time, in 20 years, that price for a down payment is going to be double or triple of what that is. That money, what you put in, will never catch up to it. What has to happen is lower taxes. But Trudeau can't do that because of his ego and his narcissism. He needs to be in control. Like, he needs to tax the businesses, like Ford Motor Company, for example, or the one that's going to build a battery plant. You have to tax the crap out of them, then give them government contracts and these money sponsorship and grants that they get so that they stay. Like, why don't you just lower the taxes for everyone? And they cannot comprehend that. He just needs more government. And when Pierre comes in, he's going to say, well, look at him. He's reducing your services. He wants to cut and cut and cut. It's like, what is the alternative? To spend another $1 trillion? Like, why are our streets paved in gold, for example? Let's continue with Mario.
Policies they have in place right now and what they're looking to implement and all that spending. You think inflation was bad? Just wait till this happens next year. Unfortunately, there's nothing that Pierre is going to be able to do, at least not for the next 4 to 5 years. This is a long-term problem we have that's going to take at least a decade to fix. Trudeau purposely set up here because he knows he's not going to win the next election. He's passing these laws and legislations and these spending budgets to make it impossible to reverse. So then the narrative is going to be like, oh, look, he's cutting taxes for the rich. But that's not going to be the case. He's trying to save this country from innovation and from the lack of productivity we have because of these ridiculous taxes, instead of investing that money back into actual manufacturing, actual R&D, and creating those incentives. Instead, he's taxing us all to death.
Is Trudeau trying to do a Hail Mary here and just ruin Canada beyond belief for Pierre to come in so it's easy for him to criticize anything that happens? Like, is that really how far it would go? And I think for every election too, and I do recall the last one, a couple of months, 6 months before, he created some division in Canada. Remember, everything was half-mast for 6 months before an election? He will do it. He will take it down as much as it can because he knows what the vision of Canada. And I know I made a video before too that, I was talking about the first whatever LG out of the closet and no one recognizes it. There's nothing. I think that's fine. Do whatever. But why does everything have to be a secret? Everything has to be hidden, an agenda, and he has to lie and do whatever it takes to never reveal what he really wants to do, because it looks like he has this vision of like 100 million people in Canada and no carbon footprint, zero, and be the beacon for the world for every country to model. That's what he really thinks. But how is it going to get to that? No clue. This guy's like totally out to lunch. No idea how that's going to be done. He just listens to the radical tree hugger Stephen Guilbeault, the environmentalist. And you can't spell environmentalist without saying mental. And that guy, just to say what he has to say, which is such a disaster. They penalize every manufacturing business in Canada to pay more, pay more, pay more. And they think they should be happy for it because then you can brag around the world. And the envy of the world is to look at Canada and the taxes that they have. Like, that's really, and I think some countries, they look at Canada and say, wow, that's how you get a lot of tax. You put the fear into people. I can spend money and gloat that my last name is so powerful and take over. I like it. Like, it's a strategy for other corrupt countries to say, hey, this is how you do it. Stick in fear. And even Greta Thunberg coming a couple of months before the election, I think that was 2 elections ago, to Calgary, that was political interference. I don't know why she's not charged. Like, how old is she now? 25 years old? And she was, 14? With her, sitting at the doorsteps in Sweden on Fridays complaining about the environment. Like, whatever happened to her? Now she just gets arrested for camera ops. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the notification button. It helps out a lot with the channel. See you in the next video.